Tonight on PB at Night, we've got a story that pertains to every Linux user out there. Adobe has decided to cut ties with the Linux community with their Adobe Air product. We're going to talk about what that means generally for Linux in general, but also...
Generally speaking.
We're going to talk about what that means for not only Adobe Air, but also the other platforms, including Flash and even some of their Pro products coming to Linux. All this week on PB at Night.
PB at Night, episode 51. It's Monday, June 20th, 2011. I'm happy and I know it. Yeah, yes. That was a very awkward song.
Awkward.
Hey, you gotta put your hands up, everybody, and do this stuff. Like, stop saying things and sing. Oh well.
Yeah.
What's up?
Nothing much. These are stories that I really don't like to talk about, but they have to be talked about because...
We shall not talk of the stories we don't speak of.
What we'll do is we'll just not mention this, and then it won't happen. You know? That's the best thing. No, Carlo brought this to my attention. I kind of brushed over it, but then I was like, whatever. But Carlo brought it to our attention. I guess it was Saturday or Friday. Sometime we were streaming when we didn't... I guess it was Saturday. And very unfortunate, but Adobe... which hasn't had the greatest ties with the Linux community, especially in the past couple of years. But I do credit them because most of their general products, all their free, like a lot of their free products, were available for Linux. They've open sourced a lot of the Adobe Air code, like the just backend code, and all kinds of stuff. And they have Flash 10.3. They're pretty good about updating it. Some of the distros aren't too great about updating Flash, but anyhow. Adobe announced this weekend that they are going to cut ties with the Linux community with their Adobe Air product. Once the last version comes out, that'll be like a couple more versions. That'll be the last version of Adobe Air available on Linux. The company cited flat growth and low uptake of the official Linux Air runtime as a contributing factors to the decision. Adobe will instead focus resources on mobile clients such as Android, whose market share is increasing day by day. I'm not too big of a fan of Adobe Air on an Android device. Have you ran an Adobe Air application on your Evo yet?
No.
There's a couple. I downloaded one before I had this new ROM, so it's not on there anymore. It was kind of sluggish. I mean, you could... Sluggish. Well, see, honestly, if you think about it, Android is a Java virtualization. So, it's almost like you're double virtualizing because Android is a Java runtime, and then you've got Adobe Air, which is a...
Flash.
Runtime. So, I'm not too happy about that. But anyhow, this is really... Really. And this comes from the guys over at OMG Ubuntu. They're really good about all things Ubuntu news. Like, they got tips and stuff. But they did a poll right here. And they've got a huge reader base right here. But look at this. 18.84% of their users, 834 voters, said, yes, I use it a lot and I'm going to miss it, essentially. And that's what I voted. 63%, which is 2,800 voters, said no, I've never used it, and then 18 essentially percent, 792 votes said maybe, but I'll adapt. I'll find an alternative. So looks like most people either never used it or they're going to be able to adapt. I think I'll be able to adapt, but now Carlo I know is a huge fan of TweetDeck, which is primarily a Adobe Air application, and there were so many Twitter applications and so many, I think there was a couple coding applications, even a couple video editors that said, hey, we've got Linux support, but the only way that they had that was through Adobe Air. So TweetDeck always on their website, they always have, and we run on Linux. Well, now you don't. So, kind of sucks. Honestly, I'm not too big of an Adobe Air application user. If you switch over to my desktop here, this is what I use for my Twitter client under Linux because I'm a heavy Chrome user, and I use the Chrome web app. That's a good option. But I like the column view. You know how you can just have one column? I like that. And I know Carlo likes that as well. But yeah, Carlo is mentioning, we've talked about this before, like after the shows and stuff, that if somebody would write a native Linux Twitter client, you wouldn't need TweetDeck. I'm open to any Twitter client possible as long as it works. But there's some that I've tried out, like Jacob's got one on this machine called Turple, I think. The only issue is, first of all, like Carlo's mentioning, they're not real time. So if you use Twitter for Mac, it's just amazing. Like you can search for something that's getting a tweet a second or something, and it pulls it in real time. Now, I mean, I understand that is made by Twitter themselves, but you know, I think it's possible. I mean, Twitter, they've got deep API integrations, and I think it's possible if like some people get together and make a good Twitter application, you could do it under Linux. There's several, but Turple's pretty good, but it limits you to so many API calls, like 360 in like 12 hours or something, which is nothing like that. That means you can only get 360 updates. So, also, let's see what else. You can get Glibber. Glibber ships with Ubuntu. I don't really like it. But we've talked about some of these before. Honestly, there's not a good viable Twitter application for Linux if you just want to download it right now and use it. So, yeah, it just kind of sucks. It's one of those stories. And I have a feeling this isn't going to bode well for Adobe when they decide that one day when they look at that like 5 to 8% user group of Linux and they say, well, we're kind of sort of wasting our time for Flash when we could take like Android Flash out of beta, even though it still sucks. We could still like we could bring it out of beta and like discontinue a bunch of the Linux distros. And I'm like, please don't do that, Adobe, because right now the hinge of online video runs on Flash, and there's no way of getting around that. I know a lot of people like to talk about HTML5, WebM, whatever you want to talk about. It's still going to take forever for people to upgrade from Flash. So, you know, I don't really know what to think about this. I mean, it obviously is horrible, and I'm probably going to miss Adobe Air. I wasn't that huge of a user, but, you know, it was always there if I ever wanted to use it. So, it kind of sucks. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could still maybe grab it while you can, and I mean, I don't see how they could just like make it stop working one day, but you know, after they update it, it'll probably be, you know, obsoleted in a couple weeks, maybe even years. So, yeah. Jacob's listing all his gadgets, and that's one of the reasons why we do a show called Gadget Gurus, because Jacob and I have
Mondays at
6 p.m. Central Daylight Time. All right, Jeff, I guess that does it for this episode of Beauty at Night. You can follow moi on Twitter, twitter.com/thatnickjones, nickjones.me. You can follow Jacob on Twitter, twitter.com/freakinghuge, FREAKINHUGE, and his blog, jacobroberts.me. I want to encourage you guys to go into the iTunes store if you're saw Joe said that he was a Mac user. Great way to use iTunes. If you're on Windows, wouldn't recommend it. But anyway, if you're a heavy user of iTunes and you like subscribing to podcasts in there, you like our podcast, make sure to subscribe, rate it if you want to, comment, whatever. But the best way, in my opinion, to get our videos besides our website is YouTube. We upload all of our videos to youtube.com/pbcasttv. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that does it for this episode of PB at Night. So until next time, I'm Nick Jones.
I'm Jacob Roberts.
And this is PB at Night.
So, peace.
Who the real rock and roll people really are here in Reno. If you're happy and you know it, bring your hand. You do know how to bang your head out here, don't you? If you're happy